So the UK is in a dire state right now. I think we can all agree on that, no matter where in the world you're from, where in the UK you're from, where you live, what your political leanings are, race, whatever. It's a mess. It is a crazy mess out here. And in this video, I want to suggest 5 books that really give insight into why everyone's leaving the UK, why there's been so many videos about people leaving the UK, people complaining about the UK. And I think these 5 books are just essential reading as to what life is like here and what things have been happening historically from a cultural perspective, from a legal perspective, from a housing perspective, and politically too, that really gives credence to everyone's gripes about the UK. Before I get into it, don't forget to like and subscribe and tell us what you hate about in the UK in the comments. We Brits do love to complain. The first book I've got on here, if you've been on this channel before, if you've watched some of my videos, you know I love this book. It is Social Class in the 21st Century by Mike Savage. He is a sociologist. And in this fantastic book, he is basically expanding upon the research he and a whole bunch of people done regarding class in the UK. I think this was around 2013, if I'm not, if I recall correctly. And essentially, he looks at the cultural capital people have, the economic capital people have, and the social capital people have around the UK. And he basically has distinguished that there are 7 different types of classes in the UK, as opposed to the 3 that we traditionally think of when we think about class. And in this book is fantastic because he and other researchers just break down in so much detail what you need to have in order to be part of a certain class, how much you need to be making, how much your house needs to be worth, if you actually even own a house. We'll get onto housing in a second. Um, to how many like friendships you have, your networks, where in the UK you live, where you went to school, all this type of stuff, what type of job you do, all sorts. And he also does research as well, like well, not just research, but quantitative research and qualitative research. And so blending those two together into this epic book was just fantastic. The qualitative research revealed quite a lot during the interviews about the way some people like to downplay their class status, or they like to sort of big themselves up depending on what they feel is taboo to talk about and what it feels like kind of weird to sort of, sort of own. A lot of people don't like the fact that they might be looked down upon. So a lot of people, and Savage mentioned this, a lot of people don't even mention their class. They don't relate to it. They don't want to even contemplate it. So fantastic book. Highly recommend. The second one that I've got here is The Establishment and How They Get Away with It by Owen Jones. This is a fantastic book. Fantastic book. Owen Jones, this is the first Owen Jones book I read, and it just absolutely completely blew me away. Owen is looking at so much here, from just culture, class, politicians, and one thing that really stood out to me in this book was just how royally we're getting fucked. Essentially, we are royally getting screwed over. Just some of the statistics and the research and the numbers you'll see in this is just mind blowing. The corruption and just the fact that people don't care. Owen Jones has another book that's kind of similar to this, Chavs, The Demonization of the Working Class. That's another fantastic book, and that basically does what it says on the tin. It looks at just how the working class is just looked down upon in the UK. But this is another brilliant book. Look at that cover. It's just like, what this book is going to be about. So another fantastic book. If you want to really find out why people are leaving the UK and what moves and how certain people are portrayed in the media and whatnot. This is definitely a must read. A more recent book, and I just recently read this several weeks ago now, Municipal Dreams: The Rise and Fall of Council Housing by John Boughton. This is a really good book. I really liked reading about the history of council housing in England. John focuses primarily on England, and he describes he goes through what the political and cultural sentiments are and were regarding council housing throughout the years. So from like World War One, World War Two, we had the big boom of building houses after that, because obviously you had soldiers coming back, and a good chunk of the country was just decimated by bombs and war, and obviously the economy was just a mess. And I really appreciated John describing how architecture and how important housing is, and just how as Brits we're obsessed with home ownership. And I guess that's like that for a lot of countries. Like we have countries that have higher home ownership rates than the UK, and we have many that are low. But the UK, I think, is still on the higher end because it's like you're kind of equivalent to like the American dream. Like one of the British dreams, isn't phrased like that, but one of the dreams is owning your own home. And especially if you've lived in council housing like I have, I've spent, half my life in council housing. You kind of realize that, you want to sort of progress, and John really does a good job documenting how people feel, not just the residents from people who were moved from slums, but also politicians at the time, what they thought, how they thought their schemes and their policies would actually translate into a better environment for everyone. This is a really good book if you really want to know about housing, especially council housing. This is the book. And what I also found interesting, especially now given the polarization politically, right? Everyone's really just going in on what the left is doing, what the right is doing, what this past government did, what the current government's doing. And I like that because even though conservatives have ruled for like, I believe it's like two-thirds of Britain since the 20th century, something like that, we get to see how they did a lot of good, they did a lot of bad. The Liberals did a lot of good, they did a lot of bad. And another thing that's interesting is housing targets. That's talked about a lot in the UK. How many houses are we building? How many are we supposed to be building? How many we need to build? And I like that John actually includes housing targets from the 20th century. And I'll let you know, it hasn't changed that much, to be fair. It really hasn't changed that much. So yeah, very good book if you want to know about housing and why people are leaving the UK, because housing is just ridiculous. It's just absolutely absurd how expensive life is here. So yeah, very good book. This book I am currently reading, and that is Big Brother Watch: The State of Civil Liberties in Modern Britain, which is edited by Alex Dean. This is a crazy anthology, and I love the cover of this, and I love the yellow. I'm not a yellow person, but I love the cover of this. This is an anthology from a whole bunch of people, from MPs to activists to lawyers and so on and so forth, who are really passionate about how civil liberties are being eroded in the UK and how they have been over the past several years. This I'm about literally about halfway through, just over halfway through. It is slightly right leaning. They do have a lot of smoke for the the Blair and the Brown government. This was released in 2010, 2011-ish, so it kind of makes sense. But they have a lot of smoke for Labour, and just the amount of legislation and laws and just the things that Labour were doing in the early 2000s that's still having an effect today. And it touches things from, you know, internet regulation to free speech. And obviously, what's crazy is that, we'll always have that conversation about free speech, right? we'll always that is a timeless conversation at this point. But this anthology is going through it, and right now it's probably gonna be like a 4.5 star read, maybe a 5, maybe a 4, depending on the last 100 pages or so. We'll see. But this is a really good book. I picked this up in charity shop. I think it was where was I in central London? I was in Oxfam in Tottenham Court Road, I think, when I picked this up, and I was like, this looks good. So yeah, another good book you want to know about. No, just why people are dissatisfied with the law, especially. And the last book, which continues on the theme of law, is a very, very popular book. Everyone knows this book if you're in the UK. The Secret Barrister, Stories of the Law and How It's Broken. And the author is anonymous. I remember when this came out, it was, a media darling when it came out, because this unknown barrister just really laid out how the law works in such an easy way, and for everyone to really to understand. And some of the stories in here are crazy, absolutely nuts. As a black guy, you kind of know that to stay away from the law, and thank God I've been fortunate enough to be okay. But the injustice and the madness that's going on in here, and a lot of people don't like. People complain about the law all the time, and certain legislation all the time. One of the reasons why the UK voted to leave Brexit, and that is talked about a bit in this, is because of EU regulation and the laws and how it's clashing with the UK. They talk about it a bit in this, which was interesting. And but even so, you know, the law we have here is a bit of a madness as well. So this also explains the reason why some people are just so disgruntled with the UK. It's just so much red tape, there's so many hoops to jump through. It's too much. It is frankly too much. So yeah, those are the 5 books I wanted to talk about. And there's more books. This list is not exhaustive, of course. And in the comments, list out some more books that you think really help explain why people are fed up with the UK and why they're leaving. Yeah. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much.